1,000,000 to 1 chance. That's what it is. I'm not letting it go. Took me a long time to get you here, and you're not getting out. Wouldn't do any good out there. Wouldn't be appreciated out there. Out there. That's insane. Disease, war, crazy people. That's what's out there. Better off in here, so just calm down. Nobody will believe me. That's all right. Not the first time. I remember in high school, we used to go camping every year, every spring break. You remember? What was the name of that campgrounds we used to go to? Roaring Springs, that's it. Roaring Springs. I don't know why they called it Roaring Springs. There weren't any roaring springs around there. Had a nice little lake, but it didn't roar. Every year, every spring break, we would load up all of our stuff in the tent and booze and pot and some special treat for ourselves, you know. Sometimes a little trip around the moon, you know. Sometimes some shroom malumalumas. Man, the crazy shit we did back then. Out in the middle of nowhere, under 1,000,000 stars, nobody around, just drinking, smoking, and tripping. It was beautiful, man. It was free. Clean. No worries. Just restful. Peaceful. And laughing. A whole lot of laughing. We used to always park away from the others, you know, off on our own, remember? And that one time that it was really crowded and there was no spots available except around other campers already set up, so we stopped and set our stuff up and got to doing what we did when we went camping. Next morning there wasn't a camper in sight, remember? They'd all gone off. Sometimes we get a little loud. Well, but what are we supposed to do? You know, we're out in the middle of nowhere, young, having fun, getting messed up, our whole miserable life ahead of us. Of course, we're going to let off some steam, be loud, crazy. No crazier than anybody else in this damn world. If I'd have known just then how crazy things were going to get, I would have stayed out there in the middle of nowhere. Wouldn't have had to worry so much. Wouldn't have had to be so afraid. Last one. We grew up together. Went to school together. We got in trouble together. Remember? If one of us got in trouble, we both got in trouble. Because our parents figured we were both together, which we probably were. First thing out of my parents' mouth was always, "Where's Dave?" We grew up around the corner and down the street from each other. We used to walk to each other's house before we could drive down the alley. And you used to find some great stuff in the alleys back in those days. The thrill. Finding a nudie mag that some other kid had stashed behind a dumpster. I bet kids today don't get that thrill. Ugh. Swore I would never say things like that. Kids today. Sound like my dad, huh? We used to spend hours outside together, remember? We rode our bikes all over the place, all by ourselves. Nobody messed with us unless it was other kids. Can't do that anymore. And the horny toads. Remember, we used to have horny toads when we were kids. They were all over the place. I mean, what happened to them? Did they all die off? I mean, we used to grab them and make them spit blood. So cool. So much fun. So this is the important part of the story. We drove down in my car, the Clipper. Remember? 74 Chevy Chevelle, avocado green. My first car. It was a great car. Had air shocks in the back and mag wheels, small block 400. Somebody had taken the chrome lettering Clipper off of an old Packard Clipper and screwed it onto the back of the car, right at the lower lip of the trunk. Love that car. But it was missing one thing, remember? Didn't have constant power hooked up to the battery. This didn't affect the car in any way, other than every time I turned the car on, the digital readout on the clock radio would always go back to 12 a.m. and the radio station would always start off back at the far left end of the dial, 87.1 or 87.7, whatever the far left end of the dial was. And it did this every time. Got to where I quit resetting the clock on the radio because I'd have to reset it every time I started the car. I mean, who's got time for that, you know? I mean, life's too short for... So, this time that we went camping, we took Eric. You remember Eric? Now he was crazy. But his parents were rich and always out of town, so he was cool to hang out with. So we got to the campsite and started to unload all of our stuff and started drinking and smoking, of course. And then we decided to go ahead and have our special little treat then. I can't remember if it was a moon blast or shroomtastica. I don't remember what it was that time. It doesn't matter. So we took it and we started setting up the tent and unloading all of our stuff, which was a dumb way to do it because it always took forever, and then the next day we'd have to fix the tent and find all of our stuff in crazy places. We always had a great big fire at night. Remember that time Eric took the hatchet, climbed the tree and wanted to hack some limbs off for the fire and damn near hacked his own limb off? Great big gash at the base of his thumb. Idiot. He didn't even feel it. I mean, I had to tell him to stop. I mean, that was the thing, man. We did the craziest stuff back then and nobody seemed to care. Riding down the highway doing 100 miles an hour in the back of a pickup, me and you, remember? Can't even imagine doing that now. But back then we had no fear. We used to rage against the machine, and I don't remember feeling scared for a moment back then. No fear. Last one. So we were at the campsite, and all of a sudden Eric just wandered off. He used to do that all the time. We never knew where he went, and he was always too stoned to know where he went, but he always came back. So anyways, we were there tripping like crazy at that point, and then all of a sudden you decided to sit in my car. For some reason, I don't know why. You weren't doing anything. I mean, the keys, you didn't try to start it. The keys were in the tent. You were just sitting there. And all of a sudden you said, "Hey man, your radio's on." I said, "You're stoned, man." You said, "Come and look." So I got in the car and sure enough, it was on. The digital display on the radio was on. read 2:14. So I remember saying, wouldn't that be crazy if it was the correct time? You had that clock that you always brought in the tent. You always put batteries in it, and you always set it because it was our only source of time. We didn't have cell phones. Imagine that. So we went back to the tent, and we looked at the clock, and it read 2:14. Chill ran through both of us. It still does. I mean, you can't explain that. I went and started the car, and it went back to 12 a.m. and it never did it again. I mean, you can't explain that. It's unexplainable. It's unexplainable. There's no reason, no logical explanation for this to happen, but it did. There it was, right there, right in front of us. You saw it. You know, you can verify it. So we stayed friends. We graduated high school together. We lived together for a little while during college. Those were crazy years. I mean, it was like camping all the time. But you went one way in college, and I went another. I mean, of course. I mean, we were growing up. We were finding our way. You know, figuring this whole thing out. I mean, I didn't have as much time with my new major. I mean, you know, I couldn't hang out as much as I used to, and I mean, I was making new friends. I was creating a new life. I mean, of course, it was college. I mean, I was spreading my wings, flying off to new, uncharted territories. I mean, you moved out. We saw less and less of each other. The more busier that I got, the less time that I had. I mean, graduate, move, see the world, start to forget. You make new memories. You chase new comets. No fear, right? Time goes by. You lose time, so you start running faster to keep up, but you can't. You can't catch that rabbit, and all you can focus on is the rabbit. You got sick. I don't remember who reached out to who. I just remember feeling very ill and scared. For the first time, really scared. We spoke a little more often after that, but it was different. It was different. I mean, we were different, of course. So much had happened. Life. Yeah, I know you could tell that I was scared by what was happening to you, and you told me everything was going to be all right, but I was still so frightened. And now this world, this horrible, ugly, awful world. Nobody's happy. Look around, nobody. Everybody looks like they just got told bad news. War, disease, famine, starvation, pandemics, lockdowns, paranoia, greed, corruption, nihilistic barbarians at the gates, conspiracies flying around like vultures. Nobody cares, nobody cares. You died. You died. Why? How? How could you leave me? You were the strong one. You were the athlete. It doesn't make any sense. A black hole formed inside of me. Started sucking me into it. And the world got angrier and crazier, and the walls moved in, and the vortex got stronger, and nobody can get off. We're all on it. We're all on this one-way spiral down, and nobody can turn around. So I realized I had to do something. I had to do something, or we were all going to get sucked into oblivion. So I did it. I did it. And now I feel less afraid. I know. I know. May not look it, but I am. And the world, the mad, insane world, can stay out there. Because we're in here. Can't go out there, do you hear me? They can't come in, and you can't go out.